Okay, this is it. We're going to close it out, our Bible study series on our theory that Peter and John were the two witnesses of Revelation chapter 11. This is episode 8, the Mount of Transfiguration. So, our purpose here, we're going to discuss the Mount of Transfiguration and what it reveals regarding the identity of the two witnesses. So, we'll get into the text right now, Matthew 17. Now, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John, his brother, led them up on a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as the light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him. Then Peter answered and said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came from out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were greatly afraid. But Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, and do not be afraid. When they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. Now, as they came down from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, saying, Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man has risen from the dead. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then did the scribes say that Elijah must come first? Jesus answered and said to them, Indeed, Elijah is coming first and will restore all things. But I say to you that Elijah has come already, and they did not know him, but did to him whatever they wished. Likewise, the Son of Man is also about to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them of John the Baptist. Okay, so there's a lot to discuss here. We got the Mount of Transfiguration. First, we're going to look at who was with Jesus on the mountain. So we have Peter, James, and John. And as you know, these are the 3 men of whom Jesus had prophesied about their martyrdom. We also have Moses and Elijah. And these are the 2 men of whom their miracles are duplicated when the 2 witnesses prophesy in Jerusalem in Revelation chapter 11. So here we're going to quickly look at that text right here in Revelation 11. And if anyone wants to harm them, fire proceeds from their mouth and devours their enemies. And if anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this manner. These have power to shut heaven so that no rain falls in the days of their prophecy. And they have power over the waters to turn them to blood and to strike the earth with all plagues as often as they desire. So again, you see the miracles that Elijah and Moses performed are being duplicated by the 2 witnesses. So here's something important. Jesus said that Elijah is coming, and that's a future event for them. And he also said that Elijah had already come. That past event is what Jesus is talking about. And when he says it was fulfilled by John the Baptist, it's not the future event that he's talking about. So the future event was not yet fulfilled, not by John the Baptist and not by anyone, because it was still a future event. And when I say future, future for them, not for us. As suggested in previous episodes, if we choose to read the Bible as a mystery novel, we can see that the author is leaving clues for us to lead us to a conclusion that he wants us to consider. So nothing should be dismissed as simply coincidence or that it has no meaning. So we have Moses and Elijah, whom Revelation is clearly pointing towards. We also have Peter, James, and John, whom we are told that they would be martyrs, just like the 2 witnesses. James would be martyred prior to the events of Revelation 11. We saw this in earlier studies, how in Acts chapter 12, verse 2, King Herod had him killed with the sword. So this leaves us with 2 men, Peter and John. And I'm suggesting that this is not a coincidence. You have 2 men, 2 witnesses. Do we have more clues from Luke's gospel? This is an interesting passage regarding James and John. Now it came to pass when the time had come for him to be received up, that he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem and sent messengers before his face. And as they went, they entered the village of the Samaritans to prepare for him. But they did not receive him, because his face was set for the journey to Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, just as Elijah did? But he turned and rebuked them and said, You do not know what manner of spirit you are of, for the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. Again, is this a coincidence? I would say no chance. Again, you got James and John talking to command fire to come down from heaven, just like Elijah. So the connections that the author of the Bible is trying to make, they're numerous, and I think they're unmistakable. And just a quick note here regarding some other theories about the two witnesses. Some used to say, or some do say, that the witnesses will be Moses and Elijah resurrected. And again, I think we've all had lots of theories in our lives during our Christian walk. I used to hold this theory that, yeah, it's either Moses and Elijah or Moses and Enoch, because Enoch hadn't died. But again, I think I'm going to point to why we're not talking about two resurrected men. As previously seen, Jesus stated that John the Baptist was the Elijah who had already come, and Jesus also spoke of an Elijah who is to come. So just as Elijah was not resurrected to appear at Jesus' first coming, there's no need to expect that Elijah would have to be resurrected as one of the two witnesses prior to Jesus' second coming in 70 AD. Jesus would use living men to fulfill the prophecy, and I believe that this episode has given strong reasons to believe that those two men were the apostles Peter and John. That's for this episode, and even for the conclusion for our whole series. There's strong evidence showing that the two witnesses were indeed two individuals. And point number two, there's also strong evidence showing that these two men were indeed Peter and John. So with that, our study is complete, and excluding any new revelations or strong objections, this Bible study is going to be closed. Otherwise, we'll add some new videos. But again, I think it's kind of pretty much closed, and I hope you've enjoyed this series. Again, comments, questions, objections, always welcome. And until next time, contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints, and God bless.